Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. We're delighted you're in class with us today. And if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Telephone listen lines up. 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. Doc Graham's with us. Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning, Vincent. I need you to double your volume again this morning, please.
Okay.
For me, I'll be quiet at my end, but I need that volume.
Okay, there you go.
I'm
Rick.
Not feeling very well. I've been under attack, and I'm right now. I've got such a splitting headache. All I want to do is crawl back into bed. I may end up not being able to do the rest of the show, but I have some important things to share once we get started, please.
Okay. So, Rick, what's happening? What do you want to share?
I have always been used as ahead of my time, ahead of my curve in sciences, because I've instinctively seen when I'm able to connect dots, and when I do, they're accurate. And that's what made me valuable to the military, was that when I speculated, my speculations were always essentially dead on. And now, some of that is from lead scouts like Joey and J.C. Cole and others that have led me to become aware of data that I might not have otherwise been aware of. And that, from that point of view, I'm eternally grateful. But it is also has a bad side to it, which makes me a target. And right now, I'm having trouble. We'll talk about targeted individuals, and we're going to talk about smart meters and 5G towers and the new weapon of the day.
All right, let's talk about smart meters, because they are being deployed everywhere, and people have been threatened that if they don't allow those smart meters to be installed, the minions that ride around in the trucks to install them threaten the homeowners that they will call the sheriff or the police. These are intimidating tactics, and I think these thugs who threaten us should be.
They are not allowed to install those meters without your permission. I have been asked to speak for Josephine County, and that's when I started to research them a little more deeply, so that when I got in front of town hall, I didn't look like a fool or a paranoid. I am both. I don't know what else to say. My research has led me to some deeper understanding of what actually is going on, and it is so scary, I don't know where to go. We can start with prisons. There has been a large study completed on the use of psychoactive antidepressant and Zoloft, and some of the others are now rampant within the prisons because of depression. This is a beta study on the use of certain drugs with bandwidth frequencies. Now, it's going to get worse as we get down this rabbit hole. The second part of the study is the 5G towers that will be connected to the smart meters. and their use. The 5G means 5 gigahertz. 5 gigahertz is the frequency band used on a weapon that was developed back in the early 70s that had been recently deployed in Iraq, and today is being deployed everywhere in America by terrorist groups. It's the second part of beta studies on how to use these abilities of dropping a voice, your sound anywhere they want it. It is a precision instrument that allows sound to be heard inside your head, a sound to be heard behind that bush over there, around that corner over there. It is an extremely invasive possibility of possible uses and how it can be used. Imagine a terrorist all of a sudden having biblical scriptures quoted in his head. Now, in itself, that weapon cannot make you do things you don't want to do. So the second part of the weapon is to take 10 kids that are depressed and put them on Zoloft or something equivalent. These antidepressants that they're doing. Now, when you do that statistically, several of the kids are going to be skittish to the point of being psychotic, even worse than they were without the antidepressant. If you will notice, in the high schools, 70% of all the kids that were involved in these different shootings from Atlanta, Oregon, Florida, everywhere, all 70%, all have stated they heard voices in their heads. That's an important key data point. I sent you a link of 4 videos. The first video is an individual, Dana, that talks about how this targeted individual is then touched with a second shooter. Always there's a second shooter in the Batman movie theater on down. There's in all of the arrests that have been made, or dead bodies, whatever, every single attempt by the police that first show up and reporters that first show up accurately trying to do the right situation in all cases will end up interviewing kids or teachers that said, yeah, I heard second shots over here and second shots over there. That's an important data point because there's always a second shooter that somehow is not validated or gets away. And by the 5th or 6th hour of news reporting, the spin has been taken over by something, and now it's no longer discussed. And the drug that is being used by the second shooter is a thing called scopolamine. If scopolamine is touched by a kid that's hearing voices in his head and is on Zoloft, he now becomes a directed weapon. And if they put smart meters into our home, that means they now can use AIs to direct that sound to any individual they want with DNA pattern. And that means that they now have a weapon in your local neighborhood to keep the neighborhood in check. And that's what smart meters and the 5G towers are actually all about. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the possibility of this being an end-all weapon for absolute control of everyone. And while they can't get to you, they can get to your wife or your child or the neighbor next door. That's the first thing I wanted to discuss.
Rick, I heard everything you said. And I'll tell you what came to my mind when you're talking about the prisons. What came to my mind is the Boy Scouts. And there were rumor after rumor for decades that the Boy Scout organization was lacing the food, the drinks that the Boy Scouts had when they were on camp with saltpeter to drive down their sexual desires. And it's rumored that the military did the same thing. Have you heard that rumor?
Yes, of course, yes.
Okay. So if that happens to be true, why would you want to
send
your
children? By the way, they're no longer called the Boy Scouts.
That's correct. They're called the Scouts. So we can have anybody in the Scouts, right? We can have girls in the Scouts. We can have boys in the Scouts. We can mix it all together. Everybody's happy. We are losing our traditions. We're losing our way. I would prefer to send my child, if I had one of that age, to the Boy Scouts rather than the Scouts. What's the difference between the Scouts and the YMCA then? Or maybe that's not even the YMCA anymore. Maybe it's the Young People's Association. But what I'm saying is if they can lace the Boy Scouts food and drink and the military's food and drink with saltpeter, doesn't it follow that they can do the same thing to all of us? And if they were willing to do that, why would they stop there? These people are really evil. And I'll tell you what.
First link that I have 4 links on that one thing that I sent to you actually shows film clips of military being affected and their behavior when hit with this voices. It's quite staggering to watch the instantaneousness of response. It's so frightening that when I started to talk about it a couple of weeks ago, all of a sudden I was attacked. And right now, it's all I can. I'm in a lot of pain right now.
Rick, are they? Do you think they're directing weapons at you right this second?
Yes. There's no question. What happened yesterday between Julie and I was not me behaving that way, and I watched myself doing it, and I had to. She, thank the Lord, is understanding enough, and also is now unfortunate. I didn't sign up for this kind of thing, and I certainly did not want to expose my...
That's Doc Rams with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. And Rick, if the Boy Scouts were putting saltpeter in food and drinks to control the sexual activity or desires of the Boy Scouts, and if the Army put saltpeter in the food, like the eggs of those who were in boot camp to reduce their sexual desires, and if the government and its contractors in the from the mid-1940s to the mid-1970s were exposing children to radiation and prisoners to radiation to see, if they developed cancer and those kinds of things, for psychiatric patients and also children in the public training camps. Why would we not think that the government would continue with experimenting on us in a larger population with 5G and drugs? Why would we think that?
I don't think it's the, quote, government, end quote.
Okay.
I think it's terrorist cells within each. And I posted something from Richie from Boston where he interviewed an individual that talked about the difference between George Washington's America and George Bush's America. And I found that interesting, and so I posted it on Facebook, and I'm having difficulty talking and right now, and I noted that both of the emails I sent to you had bounced to Sandy. Have you gotten those emails, please?
No, they have not gotten to me.
I've bounced. Sandy's bounced. I resent them to both you and Sandy. I need to get confirmation that you got them.
Okay, I'm checking right this second.
There should be two of them, one with 4 links and the other with a link regarding fracking and the Rothschilds on the island of Hawaii.
I'm checking my third email address. So 1, 2, 3, I haven't gotten it. I'm checking the next one.
Please say that you have. Please.
Hang on a second. Well, I will if I do. No. Nope.
All right. I'd like several people that are listening, send me email. I will send them to you, and then you send them to Vincent. Let's see how efficient we can get this happening. I want these posted.
Okay. I'll post them. Okay. So, class, if you want to send them to Rick, where do you want? You want people?
Just like a few people, like Joey, or I can't do Joey. I can't even do half the people that write to me because my email is now being banned by Earthlink.
Okay, my email address.
I understand what I'm doing, but I am furious. If they had approached me and made me an offer, I would have accepted it. Now I'm at war, and I don't know what else to. I don't.
Rick, what email address do you want people to contact you?
No. Well, don't worry. I'll figure something out. When and if you get these two things, would you let me know, please?
I will. Class, it'd be nice.
You.
It'd be nice to know.
I don't. I can't. I've been sick because of this. It's making me ill. The second and more important, by the way, all of these have been posted on Facebook. And the new one is by Sala, a friend of mine from Australia that has done a link between fracking, the Rothschilds, and the islands of Hawaii. What it's done is to purposefully drop the Pacific Shelf. And FEMA just went through and talked about a 9.1 that's due any minute. Earthquake.
Are you saying fracking has caused the volcano eruptions on the Big Island?
This particular video shows direct connections with FEMA and the rest of it and how the whole thing is working, yes.
Wow. What kind of evil does it take to destroy the planet? One piece at a time. Okay, so Rick...
I called my mentor, Dr. Stanley Clipner, and for help. And he's under attack right now also. And this is a major individual.
Hold that thought, Rick. We're going into commercial. Let's talk about fracking. Okay, Doc Ram's with us, and we've been talking about fracking. So, Rick, the connection...
Down right now. I'm not able to function very good. I have two final things to say, and then I'm going to sit. I'm just going to step back a little bit here. I have not had a single book order on my website in more than 7 days. That's impossible. Even before I got into radio, I was doing more than that with every day. This is, I don't know if my website is hacked. We now suspect a ghost account with Amazon, with money being sent to 2 other states. There are now at least 6 mass market productions of my book that are not authorized by me. I am under financial attack to such an extent I have to go back to work. I'm 74 years old. I have no money. And it's not me. I've always been able to make money. I can't.
Rick, do you think it's the kinds of things that we talk about that are causing this?
The last time I discovered a weapon, it was the fluorine with deuterium that was Building 7, and we physically arrested 2 individuals that came into my home to stop me from writing that article. Yes, I have no question. These were local computer experts that I had hired to come in and fix things, and they had been hired by somebody else. They were caught in the act of wiping my hard drives, both of them. Now, yes, I'm under attack. and there's no question that it's valid. And I don't know that it's our government. It might be a terrorist group. There are certainly enough paramilitary organizations out there that would have the financial wherewithal to be able to afford access to AI. I will be talking about that to Kerry Cassidy tonight, but I'll tell you what, and that's live, but I'll tell you what, I don't think it's our government, and I suspect there's something more sinister going on, and more sinister, and I don't know what it is, because I'm a nerd. I don't think like that. I think in terms of connecting dots technologically. 5G towers and smart meters are actually can be used as end of days weapon. I'm not kidding.
Rick,
not
Rick,
just toxic to the human body, but as a directed weapon.
I'm hearing more and more about cancer, brain cancer, than I've ever heard in my entire life. People are sicker, they are weaker, they're more tired, they're more lethargic.
Well, not brain cancer, but tumors. Yes, yeah. Tumors.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And let's just extrapolate for a second about something else that I've noticed, and maybe this is all part of the same thing. So last night I was sitting at the computer and I typed in at a search engine, average price of new truck. And here's what I found out. And why am I bringing this up? Because they're unaffordable. And they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So those who can afford these, they don't seem to mind. And the automotive companies that make these trucks are making more and more sophisticated trucks. So here's what we say. In 2014, the consumer paid a record high average for a pickup truck. This is 2014, 4 years ago. $32,000 for a pickup truck. Now, pickup trucks have risen to $40,700 in 4 years. That's an enormous amount of money. And at the same time, the miles per gallon are going down. And gasoline prices are going up. Now, why am I mentioning this? Because now a new truck in 2017, we're looking at about $40,700. New pickup trucks in the new model year are going to reach about $60,000 for a nice, well-appointed, top-of-the-line truck. $60,000 for a pickup truck that gets horrible mileage. So who would be buying those? Well, it's certainly not the middle class, right? How could they afford? How could they afford a vehicle? If they have car payments, it'd be way more than we used to have for a house payment, okay, a mortgage payment. So the middle class is being decimated, and I think the elite don't seem to mind. They don't seem to mind these high prices because it's almost insignificant to them. So we're being squashed. The wealthy are doing fine, and those of us who are being squashed are being controlled with drugs. And according to Norm Shealy, that depression is rampant. Those are not his words, those are my words. And you agree with that. So how did this all happen? How could this happen without manipulation and control of we the villagers? So it gets back to, let's experiment with the Boy Scouts, let's experiment with school children with radiation, let's see how cancers can be deployed, let's find biological weapons. The people who are doing this are evil, absolutely evil. And all we want is people to just leave us alone. Leave us alone, let the free market work, let us learn, go to school, get that job, become productive, and become someone who can be proud of what we do. That's what people want, and we want to be left alone. But that's not happening. And the threats that you have delineated, like AI, was something that I wanted to talk about. It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And if we look at what's happening in commerce, There's a recent trend that I've seen, and here's what it is. If you want to buy an appliance, and you go to any of the big box stores, it's the same price. It's the same price for the same type of appliance. It may have a different model number, and it may be $10 or $20 more or less than the competitor who sells them. I'm talking about like a Lowe's or a Home Depot, for an example. Okay, the appliances are going to be about the same price. So there really is there's no choice. I'm going to say that it seems to me like price fixing. If you go to the auto parts store and you want to buy a serpentine belt, it's the same price whether you get it at store A, store B, or store C. Same price. How is that possible? How is it possible that a radiator cap, a fuel pump, a camshaft, a gasket set are the same prices, store to store to store? Do they call each other up? Do they have a website? Do they have a mutual website that they share? Are the boards of directors the same members on companies A, B, and C? And they all say, you know what? This competition is unacceptable. You know, we don't need to lose money. Let's just take advantage of our customers. Let's just raise prices. Because if we all do it, the big ones, where else are they going to get the parts? And that seems to be what's happening to me. I believe it's collusion, it's cooperation, it's antitrust, and it is against the law. But I think they're doing it. And they're doing it with gasoline prices as well. You go to Springfield, Missouri, and all the gas stations are the same price, with the exception of just a couple. All the same price. How is that possible? At the same moment. How is that possible? So those are some questions I have. I don't like it. Stephen on the East Coast, welcome. You're on with with Vin Finelli and Doc Ram.
Hi, folks. Hi, Richard. I hope you're going to be feeling better soon with your headache. And wanted to ask you about the possibility. The first thing you brought up is the smart meters. Is it possible? Does aluminum, would a thin sheet of aluminum like printing plates slid behind that meter base and like cupped and directed, like bent like a parabolic dish, be able to even at a right angle or whatever to would it deflect those signals away from the inside of a house?
No, it's microwave band. There is no shielding.
And Stephen, if you did,
no shielding. It's 5G. You can't shield it.
Gosh, it goes right through aluminum.
No Faraday cage will hold that. No.
How about lead? The old-fashioned lead paint.
You would need 20 feet of lead. It's like a gamma ray.
Stephen,
it's one of the reasons why we can't go into space.
Yes, sir. What's your first name? The host of the show.
I'm sorry. I'm not hearing well, and I'm not doing well, so I'm not fully attentive. It's microwave band. There is no shielding. At this juncture, there is no technology that will shield that level of frequency band. And all of them have LD50 ratios. And the reason it's at 5G is because the voice sound is from 0.3 to 3 gigahertz. This allows complete transmission of that signal.
Let me clarify. I'm not talking about signal from the cell phone towers. All I'm talking about
is smart meter.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Stephen, here's what I did.
Good.
The moment that I was threatened by our electric utility company, I tried to stop it. I could not. I was threatened with arrest, and I was threatened with the electric company cutting off our power. Okay, that was before I had a solar alternative energy system. So it was my broadcast would have shut down, the farm would have shut down, the cows would have died from not having a well to pump the water. I mean, it was a pretty serious threat. Okay, so
I'd like to stay on the line, please.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I did in my neck of the woods when the smart meter was put in. And I'm going to be very careful how I say this. So, class, you're going to have to read between the lines. But I'm going to tell you what I did. So, we'll be right back. Stephen's with us. Doc Ram's with us. I'm Vin Finelli. Stephen asked who I am. My name is Vincent. Last name is Finelli, Finelli, and that's my real name. So Doc Graham's with us, a little under the weather today, and Stephen on the East Coast has called in. Stephen, here's what I've done. So I couldn't fight at that time. I could not fight the smart meter. So I did a couple things. For twice, I ran for the board of directors for the electric cooperative so that I could effect change from the inside. And I've been defeated twice. I've been defeated by a bunch of guys who have very little education, very little knowledge about electricity and electronics.
You know why that is?
People who, well, okay, in 1 second. People who don't know about Ohm's law. Yes, why is that?
It's because the IEEE are running everything. And the IEEE have said in their papers that all this wireless stuff is going through. And that is going to be like the control system of the future. All the devices are going to have communication capabilities in, and they can't back up. They have to move forward because all their chips are in.
We exposed a company that is in California that has been claiming wireless charging devices and how great it's going to be. So you don't have to have that little transformer or that USB charger on your wall outlet anymore with a cable attached to your phone. No, all you have to do is be in the same room with wireless charging and a massive amount of energy. And we're thinking that our research tells us that if we got 10% of the energy that's transmitted in a room to actually reach the device to be charged, like a phone or a tablet, that would be amazing. So we would be blasting ourselves. And then there are companies like Disney saying they're looking forward to having wireless charging. So if you're going to Disney, you can, hey, don't worry about that little cord that you have in your pocket. Don't need that anymore. We can charge your devices wirelessly. It's crazy. It's beyond crazy. So here's what I did with the smart meter. I said, I'm very concerned. This looks like a very expensive piece of electronic gear. And I'm afraid that if we play baseball in the backyard, which might happen very, very infrequently if we did, but I'd be concerned about breaking that expensive smart meter. So I found out that a number 10 size coffee can will fit over the smart meter perfectly to protect it from damage. And so what I did was I literally cut the plastic cover, the resealing cover that you get with those steel coffee cans. And they're getting harder to find, these steel coffee cans. Now we're making them out of cardboard. Or plastic, like Folgers does. They make these plastic ones, and they won't work. You've got to have a metal one. And so what I put a metal can over the smart meter, okay, to protect it from being damaged by, things that we might be doing in our backyard. And the plastic lid, the resealing lid, what I did was I cut it out and made a ring out of it so that it was a little bit smaller than the diameter of the inside of the coffee can, and that made it fit perfectly. So the resealing lid held onto the coffee can, and that held onto the smart meter glass to protect it from potential damage. And it seems to work a little bit. So that's just a thought.
Sure. That is the opposite of what I had suggested, because it seems to me that would reflect almost like a dish antenna, all the radiation back directly into the house. And that's my comment.
Okay.
I don't
that's
know.
That's a very good point.
And what I was
let me explain why. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me explain why I did what I did. Okay. Our smart meter is attached to a metal box outside a stone house. Our house is made out of stone. And this metal box is completely sealed except for where the cables come in or out of it. And so what I did was I trapped inadvertently these high-frequency wavelengths inside the box.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I heard that you pay a certified electrician to come in and just replace it with an old-fashioned one and pay the extra fee every month for a meter reader fee.
Okay, that might be possible. They wouldn't let me do that. But I'm wondering if somebody bumped into one of these with a cattle prod or a taser, yeah, I wonder what would happen if a taser hit one of them. I'm all set, cocked, locked, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Doc Ram's with us. Rick, there's this camera that I just can't get over where technology is going. So, you know, like the Apple phone the iPhone has a little charger. It's the size of it's a cube, maybe 3/4 of an inch square, maybe 1 inch square, or 1 inch cube. And you plug it into your standard wall receptacle, and then you plug in a USB cable to that, and it will let you charge your phone at the end of this cable. Well, I was reading within the last month about these spy devices, and there's one called a SNAP, S-N-A-P, Smart Cam security camera. Now, this thing is the same size as the Apple phone charger, and it has a pinhole camera. And so you can plug this into your wall, and you can plug your charging cable into it as well, and it will take pictures and transmit them wirelessly across your Wi-Fi network, and you can even watch what's happening remotely on your phone while you're at work. So this thing, it's impossible to see, you know, from if you walk in a room that this is not just a wall charger. It's a camera transmitter device. It's a spy device. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this, Rick, is because people may have them in their homes. They may have them in their kitchen counter, you know, in an outlet that it looks like a regular wall charger, but you are being spied on, and that data of the images that this is capturing 24 hours a day goes out on the internet.
So now you've got a camera and mic on your computer.
Yeah, and this.
Yeah, imagine that. And when your computer's off, and I'm sitting here talking on the phone, and my computer is turning off and on. Who's doing that? Not me.
I have all of the computer equipment that I have here at the farmhouse is old, and a lot of the monitors that are being sold, and for years they've been sold this way, they have cameras in them, so you can sit and face your monitor, and your camera is looking at you while so you can use Skype, video and those kinds of things. Wonderful. Well, I don't have that. I don't want that, and I don't have computers with microphones in them. But that's a huge problem. And if you have one, you might want to put a piece of black tape across it. Now, as far as the microphone's concerned, if you have, there is a way, and I was reading about it, I don't remember all the details, but you can reverse the camera and the microphone setting remotely. So someone can switch the settings and say the camera's the microphone's the camera, and you can have, you can still be monitored by them reversing the camera and the microphone from afar, remotely. This is invasive. And even if I don't have any of this stuff in my house, these spy gadgets that transmit wirelessly, that are connected to the internet ultimately, and people can, what a great way to decide if you want to burglarize a house. Hey, no one's home, right? How do you know? Because you can see in the house. Well, even though I don't have these devices in our farmhouse for everyone's protection, mine as well as our guests, they may have them in their house. And so I may be on camera at their house, which I object to, which means I travel less and go fewer places, because I don't like this. And with 5G, it's going to be worse. Is it not, Rick?
It's going to drop all kinds of levels of privacy.
So let's say I wanted to go on the run, okay? Let's say I just decided, you know what, I've had it. I don't want to be tracked anymore. I don't think I could do it. Because I certainly couldn't have a phone. I couldn't talk to my family. We now have license plate readers that are on top of these police cars. We have these traffic control vehicles, police cars, that are riding around, and they have these license plate scanners on the roofs, and they can read license plates. And when someone's registration expires, they get notified immediately, and they can pull you over. They don't even have to pay attention. They don't even have to look at the little sticker that says, the year and the month of the expiration of the license plates. It's now scanned automatically with these computers that are in the police cars.
I have a quick one. I just sent you something via Sandy, and it bounced. And I wanted to talk to you about it. So did you get my email just now?
No, and I'll tell you why. I've been on the phone with Bluehost. That's our web hosting service and company. And our emails, all of the USA Prepares emails have been down for days. So I was up till late at night talking to their technical support people, saying, let's see if we can figure this out. All the emails
Bluehost?
Yeah.
I'm with Bluehost also. That's my own server.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so what happened is all of the emails that say a name at usaprepares.com don't work. So I've been on the phone with them, and we've for over an hour trying. They can't even send me an email from their own personal emails to get to any of the email addresses at USA Prepares. And so they said, well, it could be 24 to 48 hours. I called them yesterday. It was almost 48 hours. And they said, oh, yeah, it could be 48 to 72. Pretty soon they're going to say 128. Then they're going to say 3 months. So it's a problem. And what I'm trying to alert our class to is, if you think that things just are going to keep working, that's a wish.
You're right about that part.
A wish.
And right now, the thing I tried to send you is about crops destroying blizzard and what you have going on right now just in your own state.
Well, that's another thing I want to talk to you about.
I've got a picture of deep snow still, and heavy snows on upper Midwest.
That was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. The weather extremes are unbelievable.
It's 30 degrees difference for a number of reasons. The primary one is there's a pole shift that's happened, and the North Pole and the South Pole are moving toward each other and are going to probably meet somewhere in the Indian Ocean, probably where the second Stargate is buried. Just kidding. I'm not kidding. It's happening right now.
Okay. So we are seeing 30-plus degree temperature changes in 24 hours.
Below normal. Yeah, 30 degrees below normal for this time of year. Yes.
No, I'm talking about the 30-degree delta, maybe 35, 38-degree delta between yesterday and today, that kind of a thing.
Oh, I'm talking about from what it was last year and historically.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Here's another thing. Of course, you mentioned, and I've mentioned for a couple of years now, that the trees are dying. Yeah, they're dying, and I mean they look horrible. Well, the other thing that's a problem for us, if someone said, "What do you guys do on your farm?" I would say we grow grass. And I'm talking about green grass, and that cows eat. And what we're noticing is these weather shifts are so dramatic that we have to plant different types of grass now, because there are warm season grasses and cool season grasses. So we now have to seed our fields with many types of grasses so that at least one of them is going to be growing at any point in time, because the weather is confusing the grasses. Does that make sense, Rick, or am I imagining
this? Well, no, we are in the end of days. That is, the Bible Bellers want to believe it. They're making it happen, just like they're with their belief systems, just like Star Trek. It is part of what is going on right now.
Well, it's really...
Well, basically, I could put it this way. The East Coast has just recently gone through a mini day after tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep. You're talking about the snow, the ice.
Oh, yeah. I had a friend in New Jersey that made the comment, if you're planning to get a snowplow, make sure it has a cab.
Absolutely. And if you're planning to get...
I mean, it's going to be like that.
Well, it's I would say it's that and more. If you're planning on getting a tractor, make sure it has a cab. And I'm very serious. We have a Deutsch tractor, which is a 100 horsepower or so tractor. It's wonderful, but it doesn't have a cab. So I found one that does have a cab, and it doesn't work too well. It needs a lot of work, and we're going to fix it. But it has a cab, and we need to have a cab because in the summer it is so hot it is unbearable to work on the fields. It's unbearable to cut the hay. Unbearable. In the winter, it's unbearable because the snow, the sleet, the rain, it's miserable. So we need to have, believe it or not, a tractor for a farm with heat and air conditioning. Seriously. Because it's that hard on the person working in these tractors. Because you've got the engine, you've got the sun, so you get a sunshade. But the heat off the engine is so high that you can't stand it. So you need to have air conditioning. That's where we're going. And let me just share something else. Because we have a farm, and because the grass grows, and because the cows pee and poop on the grass, it makes the soil more acidic. And we deplete the nutrients in the soil over the years. So we could put fertilizer on there, commercial fertilizer, but we don't. What we use is the cow manure that the cows provide from eating the grass. But we have to lime the fields. We need 240,000 pounds of lime for our fields right now. We couldn't get anybody. Not one company, not one person would be willing to spread lime on our fields. And we're not the only farm that has grass. Almost all the farms around here have grass, but there's no lime spreading companies. No one will do it. I'll tell you what we did when we come back. So class, as farmers, certain things that we have to do, and we have to maintain our fields and keep them fertile, and no one would spread lime. And we can buy the lime, and we can have it hauled in with a tractor trailer or a big dump truck or dump trucks. We need 240,000 pounds of lime to put on our fields this year, and we couldn't get anybody to do it. So we thought about, all right, so maybe we can spread it. Well, we have a little spreader, but it only holds 500 pounds. It'd take forever. It goes on the back of our tractor. That wouldn't work. So we looked on the internet, and we found an old salt spreader, a highway department type salt spreader, and on a truck. And this truck would be, if you wanted to know how big it is, it's whatever the largest size U-Haul diesel truck is. That's how big this is. So like, the 26-foot or 24-foot U-Haul diesel. That's the size of this truck. It's got 4 wheels in the back and 2 for steering. It's a pretty heavy truck, and it'll hold 14,000 pounds of lime. So that's what we're going to use to spread it, and we're going to do it ourselves. Now, why am I telling you this story? Because I want you to realize that you do not have to be defeated, whatever the situation is. If you come across an obstacle that seems to be one that you just can't get over or around or through, there is a way, and you can figure it out. So we paid less for this truck than a typical person would pay for a used car. Now, this is a truck and the spreader combined. Yeah, we're going to have to do some work, and we're going to have to get out the welder, and we're going to have to get some steel, and we're going to have to cut and weld and, patch it together. But we'll be able to do that. Now, I know what's going to happen. I know that our neighbors are going to see us. They're going to go, wow, who you got spreading your lime? And we're going to say, we're doing it. Can you do ours too? I know that's going to happen. So just think about those kinds of solutions that you can get around these problems. You just have to be creative and don't give up. Okay. Another thing I'd like to share with you is our son just pulled into the farm. He just came back from the John Deere dealer. Now, we have several John Deere tractors, and one of them is a 20 horsepower, a little tiny tractor. That's like the size of a big lawnmower. And we have another one that's 40 horsepower. Then we have another one that's about 100 horsepower. Well, on the small tractors, There is no small tractor that you can buy in the United States under 40 horsepower that's made in the United States. As a matter of fact, I don't think you can buy one under, I don't even know if you can buy a U.S. tractor anymore. Well, here's what John Deere does. So we needed two V-belts, and this would be sometimes they're called fan belts, and it would drive the fan to cool the radiator, the engine, the alternator, and the water pump. Well, John Deere has figured out a way of not saying what the size of the belt is. So if you want one of these $7 belts, you can get one at John Deere for $22. So it's 3 times more expensive because they will not say the belt is this wide and is this long, like everybody else does. So if you want to get a fan belt for a 1980s, 90s vintage American car, you can take that fan belt off, bring it to the auto parts store, and they've got a little gauge that will measure how wide the fan belt is and how long it is. They'll say, okay, you need a 4/8 of an inch or 4L80, meaning 4/8 of an inch wide and 80 inches long. Their little gauge will tell you that. You go to the same auto parts store with the John Deere tractor belt, and they'll say, well, that's metric. We don't have that width. And they're right. They don't. So we're being squeezed at the throat by companies like John Deere who have made it so that we can't get parts without buying them from them. Is that as bad as it gets? No. Let's throw in Apple. So Apple comes out with a new operating system for their iPhone. Okay? So let's say you've dropped your phone, you've cracked your screen, and you go, geez, Apple's way too expensive. I'll have this other guy fix it at the kiosk at the store or the mall. He fixes it for you at 1/4 the price. You do the Apple update, you get the latest operating system, and it doesn't recognize your screen's functions. So now your new screen is worthless. That's Apple. That's what they do. Rick, I'd love to hear your comments when we come back. Rick, do you have any comments on what I said about companies, corporations, large corporations forcing us to buy?
I think that this is an argument for why we're about to have an apocalypse. It's time to reorganize everything in the way we do what we do. It's mega businesses like Amazon and Google and Facebook. Even Congress doesn't get it in terms of what Facebook does and how they manufacture information. It's the whole thing of wearing out parts and the concepts of Mopar and working with plastic over steel. Do you know that plastic now is in everything? It's killing wildlife in the ocean. It's in your drinking water. It's in everything now.
Rick,
it's just using plastic over metal. That was over packaging. That is our refuge piles and our waste material, that was originally going to be used to be recycled. That was the big keyword in the 70s, was recycling.
Yep.
It's not happening. It's not happening on any level, literally. And while lip service is one thing, what's actually happening is another. And you'd be blind not to acknowledge it. And it all begins with you getting up off the couch and starting your own little program. Each of us is different, but it's time to start practicing what you preach. That walking the talk. You want to be an ecologist and eco-friendly? Prove it.
Okay. Rick, I have a real neat way of looking at the changes in technology, specifically plastic that you're talking about. We have a lift here at the farm, and I've mentioned this, over the years. We have a rotary lift, and you can put up a car or a truck up in the air and get under it. And that's how we service some of our vehicles. We use it all the time, every day. Well, we got a request from a neighbor who had a Kia, and they asked if we could check out this Kia that they bought and post-inspection, and make sure it's okay and safe to drive and all that. They already bought it. They just want to know, did they do the right thing? So we were all over this Kia, and it has the thinnest sheet metal I've ever seen. And it has more plastic than years ago. So much plastic, I couldn't believe how much plastic is in this Kia. Well, yesterday I was working on another vehicle, not one of ours, a 1976 Ford F250 gas-powered pickup truck. And my son came up to me and he said, "Wow, you really like this truck, don't you, Dad?" And I said, "What makes you say that?" And he goes, "Well, you're impressed with it." And I said, "Well, look at it. Look, the steel inside fenders, the way that you can work on it, the way you can access everything. Look at the frame. You can see the frame. Look at how the engineers at Ford back then wanted all of these pipes or lines that run fuel to be parallel, straight, and they look nice. They're easy to service. Look at the vehicles today. They're darn near impossible to service. Okay? They're disposable vehicles. But years ago in the 70s and before, these vehicles were designed
to... Well, like the DeLorean, where you tried to design something that was the best, using the highest level of technology, so it would never wear out.
Oh, yeah,
DeLorean.
and including the body. The
whole concept. You narf it, it's okay. It's like today, the whole thing is about marketing and money, and that is over. And whether you believe me or not, trust me when I tell you, the concept of currency is history. And with that, all these different marketing schemes of how to supply customer service is over. And it's a death knell, and nobody gets it yet. And it's going to be the junkyards that are going to become gold mines.
You're right. You're right, because we throw things out, like all of these switches that we throw out, these wall switches that have silver contacts, not just wall switches, but all kinds of switches and all kinds of electrical devices mostly have silver contacts because they conduct electricity very, very well, and they're mostly immune from oxidation, and we just throw them away. It's just a switch, you know. We don't recover the material in it. Pretty soon, we're going to find out that we're going to have to go mining in the landfills. I mean, I can see that.
That's exactly how all the new sci-fi is putting it, just like Star Trek did.
Mm-hmm. So, Rick, I was thinking about people who, boy, you know, the things that they've developed have really, you know, initially we thought, well, this is really neat. Bill Gates, you know, disk operating system, Windows, a copy of Apple's Macintosh software, really great. But now these computer operating systems are being used to spy on us and so forth. So I was thinking about who are people who might have had some good ideas in the beginning, but we've learned to hate what they've done because they're destroying the planet. And here are some of those names. I'd love to hear your comments. Alfred Nobel, okay? The Nobel Peace Prize guy, right? He is the guy who patented a safer dynamite, okay? Because before that it was nitroglycerin. So now we have dynamite that's easier and safer to handle, and he thought that, you know, this would be a good thing and would help peace. No. We used that during the wars, and we blew up men, women, children, buildings, and countries. Okay, that's Alfred Nobel. Then we have Arthur Galston. What did he come up with? He invented Agent Orange. He thought it'd be really good, right, as a defoliant. Well, it has wreaked havoc on the Vietnam veterans. Then you have a guy named Mikhail Kalashnikov. He wanted to defend his country. His AK-47 has killed more people than probably any other handheld gun. Okay, then you've got a guy named Cameron Longman. And what did he invent? Weapons-grade pepper spray. And then let's go on to Orville Wright. He invented the airplane. He thought this would be a really cool thing, and you could move people through the air. Well, it's used for bombs and bombing buildings, people, countries. And then you've got Robert Oppenheimer. He was credited with the invention. He didn't do it by himself, but he was the ringleader. He was the head knocker of the atomic bomb. So there you have some guys who have all regretted their inventions, their creations.
How about old man DuPont? And better living through chemistry.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, these are just 6 guys that I'm talking about. Yeah, old man DuPont, obviously, you're right. You're absolutely correct. His plastic is toxic all over the planet. As a matter of fact, they found a whale that died from eating, what was it? It was a piece of plastic. It was huge.
Yeah, stuff that floats in the sea.
Yes. Rubber tires, we throw them out. We just dump them. There are ways that we can recycle, but the people who create these things, obviously the guy who comes up with the steel-belted radial says, this is really cool because this tire is going to last longer. But then in the lasting longer, why doesn't he say, but when it wears out, we are left with something that is really hard to recycle? What do we do with it? Because those steel belts are darn near impossible to cut through. I'm saying we need to be more cautious. We need to be more proactive. We need to be more judicious in what we do so that we don't create these nightmares like the plastic nightmare that's killing the oceans. Just, class, look in your kitchen trash container. Just look at what's in there. Some cans, yeah, and maybe some pizza boxes, and some plastic 2-liter bottles, and some milk bottles, and some plastic jars with plastic lids. We treat plastic like it's free, and it's never ending, and we don't have to worry about where it goes when we throw it out because we don't look at it anymore. It goes to the landfill. Then it gets covered up. And then you have a mountain. Mount Trash, right? Mount Trash. And there's a Mount Trash near every city. And it's threatening the water supply because rainwater lands on Mount Trash. It goes through Mount Trash. It creates leachate, which penetrates ultimately the liner at the bottom of Mount Trash, and it contaminates the water supply. Have I said anything incorrect, Rick?
No, it's time for us to revision how we live and why we do what we do.
Okay, so the next step is I'm so concerned about these things. I bought an ultraviolet air purifier for our heating and air conditioning ductwork. Class, here's what it is. It's about $35. You can find it on the internet. All it is a 13-watt fluorescent-style Philips base, and PL base. They used to call these lights PL13s, and they were in outdoor fixtures for outdoor lighting and desk lamps and so forth. Well, that size base and light and wattage can be found made in China to emit ultraviolet light. And if you have the power supply, the ballast for that, you can put that in your heating and air conditioning system. And as the air circulates, it disinfects the bacteria and pathogens in the air. Pretty cool, right? So I bought one, and I bought a bunch of light bulbs for it. So we're all set. Next thing we bought, pathogens, biologicals I'm concerned about in the water. Well, I bought an ultraviolet water purification system. It comes from China, pretty much like everything else does. This is a stainless steel cylinder, and in it is a quartz tube, and in the quartz tube is a ultraviolet lamp. Water goes through it in our house water system, potable water system, and it disinfects the water. You might want to consider doing those. I'd love to hear what Rick has to say about that, and then some quick thoughts on 5G, 11 reasons to be concerned about 5G radiation. George is on hold. We'll be George in New Hampshire. Welcome. You're on with Rick Miller and me.
Hi, Vince. Hi, Dr. Miller.
Hey.
You mentioned about tires. I just wanted to chime in, if I may. They found that if they had this process where they'd take all these junk tires and they'd grind them up and they'd mix it in with the asphalt for roads. And they said they showed a road after 10 years with this processed tires mixed in with the asphalt, and they showed just an ordinary asphalt road after 10 years. And the rubber mix actually looked superior and held up better, lasted longer. And they said that the pavers had so much work as it was, they couldn't even really do more than maybe 44% of the required paving that they needed to do. They just couldn't keep up with it. This would at least maybe reduce it so that, in other words, you'd have like maybe another 40% or 35% that was actually keeping its integrity and didn't need as much maintenance. And they said the Paving Association, National Paving Association, went in, lobbied hard to get the process done away with. Yeah. So, and I'm just saying, so what do you have? You have millions of tires in landfills, and they say you can even use them for deadening. And I know, Dr. Rick, you know, I mean, you could grow all kinds of things. I'm sure you know too, Vince. In tires, like they said you could use the old tires to grow potatoes or different things.
Well, that's exactly correct. That's what we did when I lived in the country. We used them for tomatoes because they attract the heat and keep the root systems warm, even in a colder system, and you get better fruiting on your tomatoes and potatoes and the things of that nature. That's correct. You stack them.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We have a neighbor who does that. He takes the tires, takes a Sawzall, a reciprocating saw, and he cuts the tread out. So he separates the tread from the sidewall, and he uses the tread, if you will, as a ring. And he puts dirt in there, soil, and he grows his tomatoes and his peppers, and they are the best I've ever seen, year after year after year.
Yeah, because of the
so
heat.
He has it
keeps the heat in
he
the
has
soil.
a garden. Right, he has a garden that has these tires in it. He must have, 50 or 100 tires, and he just fills them with dirt, and it's easy to maintain. He's got walkways, between these rows of tires with the plants, and it's absolutely fabulous. It really, really works well. Then what he does is he takes the sidewalls, and he puts them around trees that he's going to start. And it makes a nice ring around the tree, and it helps protect the tree from, it just puts mulch in that tire ring, and that works really well as well. Now, it's not something that you'd want to have if you had a gated community or gated village, and you wanted to impress the neighbors. You wouldn't want that. But here on the farm, it's great.
You know, another use for that inner tire ring too. You can put wood that you want to split, sections of wood, and just pile them in there so that they're side by side, all held together by that ring of that tire. Mm-hmm. And it'll make it easier for splitting, keeping them together. They won't go flying as much. Do you mind one thing, Ben? I just want to ask Dr. Rick if he could re-announce that. I know this summer, Rick, you're going to be about 100 miles from me, so I may try to come.
Well, it's unconfirmed, but right now, you're talking about Sterling College and teaching up in Vermont. Yes.
All right. No, I just didn't know. I thought, like I said.
Sterling College, yeah. Uh-huh.
No, I appreciate updates on that when you do get confirmation.
Yes.
That'll be good. All right, gentlemen, I just wanted to chime in on that. But like I say, you've got people out there that will stand in the way because they'll chase like the greenbacks, and they'll put that ahead of everything, even the welfare of the world. So, so what can you do?
Yes.
All right. God bless.
Well, I guess.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you, George. What can you do? I think the answer is we're going to find out as we go further down into the abyss. We're going to find out, is the shooting going to start? What are we going to do? I don't know. But I'm sure we're all going to find out. And it's going to be miserable. Worse than miserable. It's going to be pain. Awful. And we did it. Not we, but, people. People have done this to other people. In the pursuit of greed. Rick, any last second thoughts?
No, I'm good.
Rick, thanks so much for being with us. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, docram.com.